Good evening, hello, and welcome to the weekly edition of the Patent News. The big news of the week is that Google may end up in patent World War II with Apple. Apple decided to call Andy Rubin, Vice President of Google, to testify in a patent suit starting March 31st in the San Jose District Court in California. Rubin is the founder of Android. He is also known to have worked at Apple for 2 years, at Microsoft for 2 years, and then at Google for 8 years now. Apple is calling Rubin as a witness to determine the similarities between Google's Android OS installed in Samsung smartphones and Apple's iOS. Now it will be nearly impossible for Google not to get involved in Apple's attack on Android. After all, Apple began the patent litigation with the purpose of attacking the whole Android camp. Apple founder Steve Jobs expressed extreme disapproval of Android during his lifetime. In his biography released in 2011, Jobs even said that he would engage in a thermonuclear war if it was to destroy Android. Apple is requesting $40 in royalties for each Samsung smartphone. In the first set of patent litigation, the award was set at $7 in royalties per device. The patent litigations ahead will likely be a repeat of the tedious process seen in the previous litigations. However, Apple and Samsung could cease litigation at any time when they both decide there is no benefit from the lawsuit, as the flagship products of the market are moving from smartphones to cars and healthcare products. But that's not all. There are other stories of the week. Twitter paid $36 million for IBM patents to avoid lawsuits. Google unmasked patent accuser, revealing some big names. ZTE, the telecom giant of China, recently failed to get an injunction over a standard essential patent stayed. This is a big win for Ringo. Activists to settle patent litigation of Diatrana and Norman Pharmaceuticals. So these are the big stories of the week. Twitter paid $36 million for IBM patents. Patent infringement lawsuits have become an ongoing topic for the tech community, and Twitter has avoided a battle by paying off IBM. In a filing with SEC, Twitter revealed it paid IBM $36 million over intellectual property or patents. The filing to the SEC stated, "From time to time we receive claims from third parties which allege that we have infringed upon their intellectual property rights. In this regard, we recently received a letter from IBM alleging that we infringe at least 3 US patents held by IBM and inviting us to negotiate a business resolution of the allegations." In 2013, Twitter acquired 900 patents from IBM, which resulted in the former increasing the size of its respective patent portfolio. Wired noted IBM threatened to sue Twitter over 3 patents in November 2013. The lawsuits by IBM would have come as Twitter was going to go public. In the end, the two companies formed an agreement and the first patent was confirmed in January. Further, Twitter revealed it is involved in a number of intellectual property lawsuits, and the figure could increase due to the company's growing profile and presence in competition. Filing, which was Twitter's 10-K form, detailed the company's annual financials and noted they own 956 patents. Twitter also has 100 patent applications outstanding. In other news, Google wanted to find out who was behind a company called Suffolk Technologies that accused Google of using its internet search technology without permission. Turns out, the tangled ownership history included big names, including Goldman Sachs Group and BT Group's British Telecom. Tired of fighting sometimes frivolous patent infringement lawsuits that cost millions of dollars in legal fees, companies such as Google and Apple are using the ownership questions to help their court cases. Unwilling litigants can get suit dismissed, disclose the real entity behind a case, or identify a target for revenge. Even before Suffolk lost its case, Google retaliated last year by filing a patent infringement suit against British Telecom. You would think that determining who owns a patent is a pretty straightforward process, said Stephen Kornacki, co-chairman of intellectual property practice of Shepherd Mullin in California. He further said, If a patent is assigned to a company, then it's recorded with the patent office. The problem really lies in who owns the company or the entity to whom the patents have been assigned. Google, Cisco Systems, and other technology companies have persuaded Congress to consider legislation requiring patent owners to disclose the real party in interest. The US PTO is considering rules to make public the attributable ownership of a patent. The challenge may be figuring out what those terms mean and what information must be disclosed. Vringo, a non-practicing entity that has already won some interesting court cases, won a German standard-essential patent case against ZTE in December 2013 and was granted an injunction. ZTE appealed and sought an emergency stay from the High Court, which denied in late February, according to Vringo press release. Therefore, ZTE had to and presumably still has to comply with the injunction, which affects its standards compliant base stations. In other news, Ireland-based specialty pharmaceutical firm Actavis has entered into an agreement with Norman Pharmaceuticals to settle all outstanding patent litigation related to its generic version of Ditrana. Ditrana is a CNS stimulant indicated for the treatment of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. As part of the deal, Novel will grant Actavis a non-exclusive royalty-bearing license to market its generic Ditrana starting from 2015 or earlier under certain circumstances. The firms have not disclosed other details of the settlement. Now moving on to this week in history. It seems it was a big week. In March 1845, the first rubber band was patented by Stephen Perry of London. It was made from vulcanized rubber. On the other side of the Atlantic, Jan Matzelinger helped revolutionize the shoe industry by developing a shoe-lasting machine that would attach the sole to the shoe in 1 minute. Now this was a big achievement, as the shoes then were handmade, which is a very slow, tedious process. In March 59, Charles Townes and Arthur Shellow were granted a patent for the maser. The maser was used to amplify radio signals and as an ultra-sensitive detector for space research. Maser was a precursor of laser, which has found many uses later on. In Silly Patent of the Week, we'll check out a patent claiming a baby patting machine. So this machine basically gently pats a baby on the bottom to help it to get asleep. This must be particularly useful for lazy parents or parents who like to lock their kids at home while they go out for a drink on an evening. In the new outstanding patent of the week, we check out the touchscreen radial menus invented by Google. So Google introduced a basic radial menu gesture in Android 3.0 and they've played with it ever since. Recently, USPTO published Google's patent application revealing the advancement of the radial menu. Even Samsung introduced their version of radial menu known as Air Command with the last year's rollout of the Galaxy Note 3. The radial menu is a circular menu configured to include a set of menu items corresponding to commands, functions, or options that are activated upon selection within the menu. So as shown in stage 1, the user uses their thumb to act as an anchor point noted as a yellow point in the graphic. The user then stretches a second finger out on the touchscreen to determine the radius of the pie-shaped radial menu. In many cases, the radial menu will have a predetermined size that it will generate depending on size of the display that the user is working on. Google further notes that while keeping the first finger disposed in the center of the radial menu, the user may rotate the hand while swiping with the second finger, according to the path 117 or 119, in order to select a respective menu option in the segments 102 or 106 provided in the radial menu. In stage 2, noted as the number 120, the user has moved their second finger from the second point 2 to a third point 3 outside of the initial appearance of the radial menu. Once outside the user interface of a radial menu appears, the users can have their finger extend beyond the border of the radial menu to see if a submenu will pop out as shown in stage 3, noted as the number 130. In stage 3, noted as the number 130, Google notes that the submenu light orange in some configurations, is a portion of concentric circle that extends beyond the radius of the initial radial menu. It is noted that the submenu does not have the same display area as the initial radial menu and covers a display area that is smaller in comparison to the initial radial menu. Further, within the submenu, one or more additional options may be provided. As shown, the example submenu includes a number of subdivided segments, the numbers 140, 42, 44, 46, 48 till 50, corresponding to respective menu options. In some configurations, as the user is moving the aforementioned second finger along one or more paths within the radial menu, the user interface may provide for display of a graphical indication, such as a glowing arc of the second finger on the touchscreen.